Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of how the novel To Kill a Mockingbird was banned in a high school in Washington State? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the incident, then offer my analysis. The novel, To Kill a Mockingbird, was written by the author Harper Lee. It was published in 1960 and would go on to be one of the most successful books in history, selling over 40 million copies. In 1961, the novel won a Pulitzer Prize. A movie based on the book was released in 1962, starring Gregory Peck. The novel was loosely based on Harper Lee's experiences growing up in Monroeville, Alabama. Here is a summary of the novel. The story takes place from 1933 to 1935 in a fictional town in Alabama. The narrator is a 6-year-old girl named Jean Louise Finch. She goes by the name Scout. Her father is an attorney named Atticus. A judge appoints Atticus to defend a black man named Tom Robinson, who is accused of committing an assault of a sexual nature against a white woman. This leads to Atticus becoming the target of hatred from racist members of the community. During the trial, Atticus convinces the jury that both the victim and her father were being deceptive. Tom was actually innocent. Despite this, Tom was convicted. He was later shot and killed while attempting to escape from prison. Angry at being exposed as a liar, the victim's father attacks both Scout and her brother. But a strange recluse named Boo Radley intervenes. The victim's father was found dead from a knife wound. The book had several themes and lessons, just to name a few: the ingrained nature of racism, the challenge of raising a child not to be racist in an environment where that is common, looking past appearances to detect the true nature of people, the courage to stand up for what is right, and the importance of seeing life from another person's perspective. The novel has been extremely popular in schools for many years. For many people, it is considered a book that every student should read. However, not everyone is a fan. The book was highly controversial, and there have been efforts to ban it from the classroom, both by conservatives and liberals. Here are a few examples of elements of the novel that have offended people: the profanity, racial slurs, the depiction of sexual assault. The storyline supports the idea of the white savior complex, and the black characters have been accused of being shallow as compared to the white characters. Some people have been offended that the novel features a white woman being attracted to a black man. The novel has become one of the most challenged books in school districts. It was in the top 10 most challenged books in 2009, 2011, 2017, and 2020. In 2016, To Kill a Mockingbird was temporarily banned in Virginia because of racist language. In 2017, it was banned in Mississippi because it made people uncomfortable. And in 2020, it was banned in Burbank, California for being racist. Despite all the hostility directed at the book, there are still a large number of people who like it. For example, in 2018, PBS viewers selected To Kill a Mockingbird as their top novel. And in 2021, readers of the New York Times voted it the best book in the last 125 years. Now moving to the timeline of the incident. Kamiak High School is a public school north of Seattle, Washington. In 2018, a black teacher named Shanta Freeman Miller ran a group called the Union for Students of African Ancestry. During one meeting, students expressed concerns about the novel To Kill a Mockingbird. At this time, the book was mandatory reading for freshmen. The students supplied various reasons why they were upset with the book. For example, one student said the book misrepresented him and other African Americans. Another student accused a white student of reading a racial slur from the book out loud, in defiance of the teacher's instructions. The student also believed the plot of the novel was inferior. A third student reported that the novel did not move her because it wasn't written about her or for her. Shanta started wondering if there was some way to eradicate this non-moving novel from the mandatory reading list for freshmen. She discussed the matter with 3 white English teachers, and they all agreed to take action. In late 2021, the group of 4 decided to launch a formal book challenge against the novel. They did not want the book removed from the library, rather they just didn't want it to be mandatory reading anymore. In the challenge, they wrote, quote, "To Kill a Mockingbird centers on whiteness. It presents a barrier to understanding and celebrating an authentic Black point of view in civil rights era literature and should be removed," unquote. Many other teachers in the district had a strong reaction to the challenge and were stunned by the bizarre decision of the 4 teachers. Around this time, a number of conservatives were banning books in other areas of the country, but the teachers had always felt safe because they were in a liberal district. They never thought that fellow liberal teachers would ban books. The challenge to the novel also invited a larger audience to comment on the situation. In general, liberals accused the book-banning foursome of trying to erase the reality of racism, and conservatives viewed their behavior as consistent with having a woke agenda. Everybody was offended by something. School officials had to deal with people complaining about what book would be challenged next if To Kill a Mockingbird was banned. There was a fear that book-banning efforts would grow and become unstoppable. On December 2, 2021, an instructional materials committee met to discuss the fate of the novel. The 4 teachers who opposed the book were there to make their case against it. Other teachers were present to defend the novel and to argue against censorship. The meeting, which was not recorded, lasted for 3.5 hours. The book-banning quartet questioned why students should read a book by a white author in which Black characters were allegedly two-dimensional. The teachers in favor of the book noted that all books are offensive to someone. After hearing the arguments, the committee had to vote on 2 issues: whether to ban the book from the freshman required reading list and whether to permit teachers to assign the book at all. Ultimately, the committee voted to strike the book from the freshman reading list, but to allow teachers the freedom to assign it if they wanted. Essentially, the 4 book-banning teachers won half the battle, but they were still upset based on their belief that students would be harmed because teachers were permitted to assign To Kill a Mockingbird. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. Some people who learned about the foursome were upset that the word ban was used by media sources when telling the story because the foursome simply wanted the book to be removed from the reading list. The teachers didn't try to ban any books. This seems to expose a double standard. When conservatives were trying to ban books, the word ban was favored and used all the time in the media. What the 4 teachers in Washington state were doing was the same thing, but with a different book. Neither liberals nor conservatives were trying to destroy books forever. Both groups were trying to restrict specific books from being assigned to students. I can appreciate the argument to ban the word ban in this situation, but no matter what word is used, the bottom line is this: if a book is removed from a school reading list, fewer students will read it. Item number 2. As I mentioned, the teachers in the liberal district felt safe because they thought that their fellow liberals would never ban books. Historically, liberal ideology is consistent with appreciating the arts, including literature. Over the years, many liberals have not only avoided banning books, but they have fought for all types of literature to be available, including highly controversial books. I can understand why the liberal teachers were surprised when their colleagues attacked To Kill a Mockingbird. This illustrates how the desire to be in the book-banning business descends upon people regardless of political ideology. Item number 3. Why did the book-banning foursome decide to go after To Kill a Mockingbird? Various members of this quartet gave reasons, but no comprehensive and coherent argument was ever made, at least not one that I've heard. One area of contention is clearly the race of Harper Lee. The argument suggested that white authors should not tell the narratives of Black people. I feel as though the foursome may not have actually understood To Kill a Mockingbird. The book was written from the perspective of a white person, namely Scout, who was trying to understand the perspective of other people, including people who were Black. Scout was trying to navigate a complex and vicious world full of irrational decisions and bias. Her beliefs were forming throughout the book. She learned from various role models, like her father Atticus. One of the primary lessons of the book was how Atticus was trying to make sure Scout did not become racist. I find it ironic that to justify getting rid of this book, the four teachers introduced the argument that a white author could not write this type of book. In their effort to fight racism, they made an argument that could be interpreted as racist. Another argument made by the four teachers had to do with protecting students from some type of harm the book would cause. It's not clear what this harm was, and no scientific evidence was introduced to support this theory. It's just a baseless assertion. I find it worrisome that they viewed this novel as being pernicious. If they disagree with the plot or the lessons taught in the book, they could rely on their ability to teach. Students learn critical thinking skills by reading books and evaluating the strengths and weaknesses of the many facets of the literature. Maybe the teachers should have assigned the book and asked students to analyze the characters, attitudes, and events contained in it. I think these teachers failed to remember that teaching was an option. I don't know why these teachers decided to challenge this book, and I'm not sure they know either. Maybe they thought they were doing the right thing. Maybe they didn't understand the book. Perhaps they were simply looking for some type of fight to make them feel like they were making progress. Or they could have been strongly influenced by the opinions of their students. This brings me to item number 4. Many students throughout the years have been very pleased with To Kill a Mockingbird. Students often find it to be thought-provoking, well-written, and insightful in its approach to important social issues. Clearly, not every student feels this way. As I mentioned, the leader of the foursome had a student who said the novel did not move her because it wasn't written about her or for her. This was one of the arguments that motivated the teacher to act. School is supposed to prepare students for the real world. It is critical students learn the real world is not about them or for them. It's a competitive environment where critical thinking skills are rewarded and narcissistic traits can result in disaster. How disappointing it is that any teacher would choose to reinforce grandiose and self-centered statements like, "I cannot be moved by a book that isn't written for me and about me." What lesson is this teaching the students? How will this lesson pay off financially or in any other way for that student? Item number 5. One theme that emerges in this case is how the teachers who wanted to ban the novel appeared to believe that they knew something that other people did not know. They could spot a danger that the rest of the world missed, almost like they had magical powers or some incredible level of insight. I'm curious as to how they gained this knowledge. Where did they learn this from? It sounds like they learned it from To Kill a Mockingbird or other similar books. The teachers failed to see how being challenged by great works of literature can lead to the development of critical thinking skills. They should have focused their efforts on exploring the characteristics of the book instead of attacking the book for making them uncomfortable. It sounds like the teachers simply could not sit with the material in the book. They couldn't handle their own emotions. Their answer to the situation was to get rid of the material instead of addressing the cause of their feelings. Now moving to my final thoughts. From time to time, high school reading lists will be updated by getting rid of some books and bringing in new ones. There's nothing wrong with that, but the reasons for those substitutions should be compelling. They should be logical, reasonable, and appropriate. People being offended by a book is not a good enough reason. Simply trying to pacify or comfort students is also not sufficient. Comfortable students don't learn anything. Students who are being challenged by the material are the ones who benefit. I think teachers who want to ban books should consider that a teacher is always giving a lesson, whether they want to or not. If nothing else, they teach simply by being a role model. Students watch what teachers do. They become like their teachers someday. What lesson did these teachers convey to their students? Complaining is the way to succeed? Being offended is the worst thing that can happen to any person, anytime, anywhere in the world? And being shielded from every instance of controversial material will lead to greatness. Unfortunately, all these lessons are without merit for several reasons, including the fact that they are inconsistent with appreciating another person's point of view. If only these teachers had ever been exposed to a book that could teach them the value of understanding the perspective of another. Those are my thoughts in the case of the To Kill a Mockingbird book banning. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.